What's up? How's it going?
Should be good now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I got my ring light. I got literally my ring light from my room
Uh-huh.
and my oven top light. So I
Dude.
have lighting coming from both directions.
Awesome. Yeah, your lighting's good. I gotta work on that.
No, this ring light was like $40.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like it's about 5.5 feet tall. So that's tall enough for me. So it should be tall enough for you. It was
Right.
only like $40. And it has like a tripod that comes with it if you wanted to use that, but I don't use it.
Okay,
Um,
sweet.
I have questions written down for my Instagram,
Okay.
and then I put my own topics down that I think might be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, sounds good. And I have some topics and questions um to ask you. So you want to start off with your questions?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So you want me to list them off or just go one by one, or
Yeah, one by one.
okay? So my first question, I think this would be a good opener, like
Mhm.
plans for starting a gym or like a brand.
Yeah.
Um, so personally, with me, obviously been in mind. It hasn't been like a huge focus for me at all. It hasn't been like I know I'm going to do this, but this would be like a dream, obviously. And I think that would probably go for you too, and most people who are extremely passionate about the gym like we are. Um, I think that one day this is a possibility. Uh, I mean, obviously, you're going the college route. I'm going to be going the college route. Um, Eventually, we'll land a career, and we can, if we wanted to, we could pull out a loan and make this thing happen.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's just one of those things where it's like it's not my focus. My focus is first pursuing my dream career and what I want to do with the gym and stuff like that, entrepreneurship, and I want to start a website and stuff. So it's not just the gym. I think that's a really really cool idea, and obviously that's a dream.
Hmm.
But I mean, what are your takes on that? What are,
Um,
on a gym brands?
yeah, I think I want to like because I want to do competitive bodybuilding. So
Hmm.
I think I'll focus on starting a career and focus on like establishing like a name for myself
Yeah.
and then maybe move on to that eventually. But
Yep.
but right now, like having a brand isn't really isn't as important as building social media right now, if that makes sense.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to build my character, I want to build my name and my reputation. That way, like, because a lot of these, especially competitive bodybuilders, they had their whole career was focused on competing, and then now that they're retired, they now they're starting to make a name for them or make a
Exactly.
brand, and they get really successful. So I think establishing a career, and if you want to compete, do that first, and then look at your opportunities and options.
Yeah. I think you elaborated on very well. Like it you can't just start up a gym and expect people to flood in there. You have to, like, the reason why commercial gyms are such a big thing.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's not our niche. Is it's we're not casuals. We're very passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
So with a gym, we're not going to be creating a commercial gym like our gym, like Beef at Physique. If no one knows what those gyms are, they're just basically commercial gyms with a little extra kick. But commercial gym obviously not the route I would take, and you have to build a name for yourself if you want people to flood into that gym. It's going to be like a specialty gym based on like powerlifting or bodybuilding. People who are serious athletes and serious about what they do.
Hmm.
That can make it very very difficult to drive in traffic and make your gym put your gym in the green profitable. So
Right.
it's going to be a big challenge, but I think you could definitely build a name for yourself in that regard and get that started for sure. Like you have a ton of potential. So it's
Mhm.
exciting to see that you want to start up a gym. I mean, I obviously want to too. How we could do it together.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
um,
That'd be awesome.
exactly. Along the line, I'm sure we'll be talking about this a lot more. And it's not impossible. I mean,
No.
it's very realistic.
Oh yeah.
Many people have done it. Many people have failed, obviously, but I
Hmm.
think we have what it takes to, get something like that started. So that's exciting.
Right.
I guess I can go to the next question here real quick.
Okay.
So this is going to be an exciting one. I think challenges with your journey in fitness and obviously bodybuilding.
Right.
So that's a big one. I think we both struggle with gaining weight.
Yeah, very
uh,
much so.
yeah, I'll let you go first on this one though. So, what were your challenges with your journey in fitness in general and starting up?
Um, really like what to do. Like when you first start, you don't know what you're doing. And
Hmm.
most people don't have a coach when they first start. They have YouTube and their own ideas.
Yep.
And that can either go both, like it can either go good or bad. And for me, I gained weight once I started training. So I was eating and then I trained and I was gaining weight just as new gym gains or whatever.
Hmm.
And then there came a point where I had to really focus in on dieting because I was plateauing. Like my first year or first 6 months after that, the gains were like not really there.
Yeah.
And I like what I would do is I would have like 3 or 4 meals a day, nothing like big like I do now, but that wasn't doing
Hmm.
much. So I think the challenges at first is really figuring out what to do, like your diet and training wise, you know?
Yep. And I think that's what differentiates us from, I would say, most people starting up is like, even if a guy starts out in high school and they're like, I really want bigger arms.
Hmm.
With us, it was like we saw that first bit of progress, and immediately we got latched to it. We got addicted, and we were
Yeah.
like, all right, I want to keep doing this. And it's just like tough to see people with amazing genetics that just, they want to get their arms bigger, they want to get maybe stronger, but they don't want to push their bodies to the limit. And I think that's what
Hmm.
me and you immediately wanted to do within
Yeah.
our first year of lifting or training
Right.
or just in fitness in general. um, Obviously, eating a ton was a struggle for us. I didn't even know I needed to eat a good amount of food. I was eating like a bird
Hmm.
until like my second year, basically. I was like, oh, I
Right.
just need my protein shakes. I just need a chicken, maybe a little bit of rice. I've heard that's good too. But I
Yeah.
wasn't worried about my carb intake. I wasn't even worried about my total protein intake. I was just worried about getting it throughout the day. I wasn't, obviously tracking it. So that's what I would encourage the younger lifters to do is people who are starting out, they need to track and they need to make sure that they're eating
Hmm.
according to obviously their body type and their genetics. But that was the biggest challenge for me too, is just gathering new information online and hoping it's not the wrong information. You're
Yeah.
trusting the internet at that
Right.
point.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I think for me, other than the internet, I did work at a gym straight out of high school, and that benefited me a ton. And
Right.
also the weights coach at McNair High School
Hmm.
um, helped me a ton with learning about their trial and error and what they've gone through and what has worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. You learn a lot that way too, and I think that's a lot better than looking online for information on macronutrients, how to work out, how to diet. If you're listening to people, it's a lot higher quality information than looking on the internet because there's so much
Hmm.
false information out there and so much bro science.
Yeah,
And to
definitely.
some extent, that stuff can be true, but it's
Yeah,
really difficult.
for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, when I first started out too, like another thing is, um, I never was an ego lifter. One thing, that I kind of wish I do, or I wish I would have done is when I first started training, I wasn't big into like lifting heavy, but I kind of wish I would have pushed myself a little more,
Mm.
strength wise. I think people that are new to it I think that people should get a coach and kind of learn strength, like to eat more and get strong, like in the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
if you're taking advantage of your linear progression from the beginning, you have a huge head start and huge push compared to people who don't do that,
Right.
especially in that growing phase, when you're like between 16 to, or I would say even 15 to like 20 years old. That's the
Hmm.
time to take advantage of those gains and that linear progression. You need to hit it hard and you need to make sure you're eating and training to the
Right.
fullest extent, and basically just milking your pubescent stage where you're growing, you're sprouting.
Hmm.
That is the most efficient time to grow.
Right.
And that's why you see all these young lifters lifting like so much weight for just being
Hmm.
18, 19 years old. I mean, even 17 and 18, like it's just crazy ridiculous. And it's just the new generation coming up and these people who are taking advantage of the heavy lifting and the dieting and the correct training early on.
Right.
And I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't start a little earlier, but
Hmm.
we still started early. We still got, a jump on it, which is cool.
Definitely.
Uh, but yeah, if you're a young lifter and you're eating a ton and you're training right at the beginning, you're gonna see a ton of results and you're gonna get that huge head start amongst other people. So
Yeah, definitely.
I think I can go into the next one now. So I got you're gonna like this one too. Inspirations. What are your inspirations getting into fitness and specifically bodybuilding, the route you chose?
Right. So, want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so well, it was kind of like a like a long thing for me. Like it started off as my junior year in high school. That's when I like came out of my shell at school, and I wanted to be more confident and I wanted to like take care of myself more. So it started off by like, like on YouTube they have like the alpha male stuff, like
Yeah,
how to
yeah,
take care of your hair and stuff. I started off by like dressing better, doing my hair, taking care of my face, and then eventually, um, in my junior year at the end, so like May, so pretty much close to summertime, I wanted to get bigger and just
mhm,
kind of out of the blue, I wanted just to go train. I've been thinking about doing it for a year around that time. So I'm like, I'm gonna go do it, put in a membership there.
nice.
And I only did cardio like in machines for like the first 2 weeks, but I started watching YouTube videos and I actually went straight to bodybuilding. Like I found a
Oh,
yeah, I
just went
just
straight there.
yeah, just it was like straight to the point. Like I saw these bodybuilders, I saw like Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, I saw all those big mass
Mhm.
monsters. And at first they literally scared me because even
Yeah,
yeah, even looking at Arnold and stuff, like it was insane. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool. I want to try something like that. So I started lifting free weights, and actually bodybuilding.com made an app called Body Space. So I downloaded that, and for 12 weeks I did a workout plan for mass. And or like 12 weeks, like during those 12 weeks I learned how to train properly and his techniques, and I grew really quick from that. And that's
nice. Yeah, I think
yeah,
I remember a few friends of mine using Arnold's blueprint for mass
yeah.
when they were like in their senior year of high school, and they got
Hmm.
crazy strong pretty fast.
Yeah,
From what they were lifting before to now.
exactly.
That stuff works. The pyramid sets, everything is
Hmm.
beautiful. And I think that more people need to apply those advanced tactics to their training early on just to get a
Hmm.
grasp on it for when they need it later. And not only
Right.
that, I mean, you're going to see amazing gains from it too. Um, I think for me, it's not like the mass monster route. Like it's amazing to look at
Yeah.
those mass monsters on stage. It's just you think, how the hell is this humanly possible?
Yeah.
Even
Pretty
if even in
much.
person it looks impossible, but it's real. It's in front of you.
Yeah.
So that's one thing for me is like that makes me want to push myself. Maybe I don't want to take that same route, but
Right.
I mean that is in the area of where I want to go, the neighborhood.
Right.
Inspirations for me, it really all started with literally just one guy in my weights group in high
Mhm.
school. This was junior year. I just turned 17. This guy who played rugby, his name was Evan, gave me a ton of lifting advice and dieting advice, and it was just basic stuff. It's not like he was a bodybuilder, like a professional athlete or anything. He wasn't even playing sports for the high school. He was playing scratch rugby on a different team away from the high school, but he taught me a lot about the basics of dieting and training. I
Right.
applied that as soon as I saw my bench, even just my bench go up. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna do this the rest of my life.
Right.
I
Pretty
benched
much.
and I was doing literally hit 135, one play on bench. I was so excited. I was like,
Right.
this is wicked. As soon as I got 135 for 10, I remember it vividly. And like I was freaking out and looking back, it's like obviously not that much weight, but I was still so excited.
Right.
And it all started there. And then I started looking more into the powerlifting crowd, and powerlifting was the first thing I wanted to get into. I wanted to be the small guy that was crazy strong.
Hmm.
And then I cared more about looking good. Um, it all started out with the powerlifting and all started out with trying to lift heavy. And then I eventually fell into both where I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to look better, but I still wanted to lift heavy. I wanted to be the jack of all trades lifter. And a lot of people can handle that. But at a young age, when you're bodybuilding and powerlifting at the same time, it wreaks havoc on your body. And it's still doing that to me now. It's just I'm able to maneuver that a little better and, get some extra rest and eat some more food if I need to.
Right.
Uh, but powerlifting was a huge thing for me. Like I knew a few guys at the high school that were doing it, and that's just what I wanted to do. I wanted to squat, bench, and deadlift, and eventually, yeah, I became one of the stronger teenagers in Oregon, and I'm just kind of staying on that route and seeing where that goes. I want to compete my first competition in a couple months, but
Hmm.
um, that was mainly my inspiration was powerlifting, and now it's kind of in between. I'm
Right.
juggling between the two now, so
Yeah, definitely.
which I think is I still think that's healthy. But
Definitely.
how about so what would be a good one here? I think your most defining moments in fitness or bodybuilding or literally anything in the fitness world for you.
I don't really know if I have that. To be honest with you, almost been training for 2 years now, so I don't know if I've had one yet, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that makes sense because I mean,
mhm,
no matter how many feats you've accomplished now, I mean, just imagine how many you're going to achieve later. I mean,
right,
you're not even halfway through your journey.
right.
So there's a lot more that's going to be happening. So I'm sure you're going to have some defining moments, like either winning a competition or whatever it is. So, or coaching someone for a competition too.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
I think that would be a good defining moment. I want to coach so bad, but it's just like it's so tough to be younger teaching someone that's older. A lot of the
Yeah,
time, that's a really difficult position,
it is.
uh, especially because that's a maturity thing. Like I think I have the maturity to, handle that, but um, sometimes the chemistry just doesn't work. But I think a defining moment for me um, would probably just be starting the social media page that I
Right.
have. At least currently, that would be my most defining moment. I'm sure there's going to be more, but um, starting the social media page, it was a personal page. It was like just my high school guy, like posting that I'm at Chipotle with friends or something,
Hmm.
just that general type of page, a high school boy. But eventually I took the route of changing it into a fitness page slowly. And it was funny how it happened because I just started to post pictures at the gym, slowly started deleting all of my high school memory photos. I was like,
Yeah,
no, this is about fitness now,
right.
and now it's a fitness page. And then people kind of like laughed at it at first, like, okay, the skinny guy thinks he's huge, that type of thing. And then eventually people started to see me pack on size and like, okay, wow, this is motivational. And then eventually it just kind of snowballed. And now a ton of people in like the Salem Kaiser area or just generally in Oregon, even around Medford from my old friends,
Right.
they're attracted to my social media now. They're like, wow, like it's kind of brought them all together into this weird circle. And it's awesome to see. I mean, I never thought it would be this big now. I mean, it's not like my social media is huge,
Right.
but it's a lot bigger than when I started, and it's just
Yeah.
insane to see it growing how it is, and it's inspirational for me.
Yeah,
It makes me want to keep doing it.
definitely. I remember when I first followed you, you had like 1,200, and then it just kept growing. It's
Oh,
still growing.
1,200, man. That was
Yeah.
like when I first started posting the fitness stuff. Oh
Yeah,
man.
dude, I remember, and it's pretty cool, even though it's like, it's not a huge milestone, but it's big enough to the point where like, it's still, like you said, motivating, and it's insane, like how fast is progressing though, too.
Exactly. And if I did that and I was probably around 17 and a half, 18 when I started that. But
Hmm.
imagine if your social media is gonna take off. Like, because when I was your age, I wasn't nearly as big as you are. So I was
Right.
like, I was still starting out. I was still skinny. I was still small fry. So
Hmm.
yours is gonna skyrocket. It's just a matter of time. Like people are gonna find out, Zach Aldrich, and they're gonna click on that follow button, dude. They're gonna be like, holy shit, this guy is fuck 19. Okay.
Right.
He's bigger than
Yeah.
me and I'm 25. Exactly.
Right. I'm hoping
So
that
I mean, it's just a
happens.
matter of time for that, dude. It'll
Thanks, man.
happen. It's just obviously you're undergoing with Chemeketa, but
Right.
you're gonna put the focus in that's required for that to happen. And it doesn't even take that much really. It's just like maybe
Hmm.
a post a couple times a week.
Right.
You've been taking videos on your stories, like that stuff's so important. Just engaging with people on your account
It
keeps
is.
people there and it brings new people in.
Yeah.
And I
Like
mean, you have a good circle that's sharing your content. So
yeah.
it's only a
Thanks,
matter of
man.
time until people get attracted to the profile.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Um, so I think I have a question that's going to take us outside of the fitness realm,
That's fine.
which I mean, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to elaborate on this if it's not in fitness,
You're good,
but
man.
a few things outside. of fitness, or fun things that you like to do outside of fitness, or like they could be hobbies, really anything, just stuff you do. It could be daily, it could be weekly, monthly, whatever.
Right. I that's kind of I got to think for a second.
Yeah,
I don't know,
exactly.
man.
Me too. Like, obviously, I know I love fitness and like it's a huge part of my life. It's not my whole life,
Right, you're right. You have to
but
have balance, but or
yeah,
not
exactly.
close to balance. I think for me is hanging out with like my girlfriend or like some close friends, like going out and just maybe watching like TV or just chilling out and kind of enjoying life out, like because 80 to 90% is bodybuilding and fitness. And
Hmm.
that small percentage is like stuff you can get away with doing outside of that.
Of course, yeah.
So I think just getting a break and just like simple things like going on a walk, playing some video games, watching YouTube, kind of just hanging out with people. I think
Yeah, just I think anything to take you away from that for a little while. It's almost like gym is a stress reliever, but then you're having a stress reliever for that stress reliever. It's kind of
yeah,
weird.
for
Um,
sure.
you do need a balance, and I think some people you I think I'm not saying you're doing this, but I think some people use like I need a balance in my life as an excuse to not be as serious or passionate about their fitness life. I see
Right.
that a lot, but I think with us, it's important for us to obviously have those other things that we do. Whether it's like hanging out with family, friends, or simplistic things like, going out for movies or something. Because obviously, I mean, we want to inspire people. We want to, make this into like a living,
Right.
but and that's only possible if you make it almost your whole life.
Pretty
Um,
yeah, no, pretty
it's really
much.
the only way to do it. And people want to tune into that makes people lead to want to learn about your day-to-day life, which is going to
Right.
include things outside of fitness.
Exactly.
It kind of becomes like a reality TV show for them to watch, and you're the protagonist. But um,
Yeah.
I think for me, I like to go hiking, and I haven't taken advantage of this time to do that much lately. But I love to do that. Oregon's obviously an amazing place to do that. Hang out
Mhm.
with friends, whether it's in the gym, out of the gym, going out to eat, obviously. Um, yeah, I mean, I used to draw, not really anymore.
Right. That's cool.
Um, and yeah, there's really not a ton, but um, we all got friends. We all do things with our friends, and I think
Right.
that's enough for me.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, real quick, can I go get my charger for my MacBook? It's
oh
almost
yeah, no,
dead.
go ahead.
My bad.
Looking good. Yeah, we're
Okay.
good.
My mic disconnected for a second. Okay,
I
so
don't even know how good my audio is going to be without a microphone, dude. I totally forgot that that's a thing to
oh no,
do.
you're good at I hear you just fine. It
Okay,
shouldn't be a
sweet. That's
problem.
good.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Cool. Adjust this real quick. Cool.
Also,
Okay.
real quick, if it looks like I'm not looking at you, it's because my camera on my phone is propped up right here, and then your screen is like where I'm looking at right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I want to like
Mine's
make
kind of like
sure,
my screen's kind of a little
right?
away from my camera, but
So if it
I
looks
have to
like
look
I'm
down.
right, so if it looks like I'm zoning out, I'm not. I'm just trying to pay attention to the screen. I'll work
Okay.
on fixing that, but just want to let you
No,
know.
it's cool. All right,
Okay.
gotcha. Okay. That was a short one
Yeah,
for a good
definitely.
reason. Uh, I have a specific question, and this is actually from Miriam.
Okay.
So she wants to learn how to better. I think this is actually beneficial for most people, considering this is the hardest thing. This is the hardest thing for me to learn at the beginning. Mind muscle connection, not just mind
Yeah.
muscle connection. She specifically asked how to engage your back better with mind muscle connection more
Okay.
efficiently. Where how can you feel that better? But I think after that we can elaborate fully on mind muscle connection and what
Yeah.
that's about, because that's very important.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Um, I'll start on this one. So with mind
Mhm.
muscle connection, specifically, I'll talk about the back first, just for her case. So mainly, you're gonna think about for most back movements, say like it's a lat pull. You have your arms up here. You're grabbing onto the bar, or a seated row. Think about them the same mechanics. Your arms are hooks. You're only holding on to this weight. Like your arms are basically dead. You're latching onto these, you're closing your fingers.
Hmm.
Don't think about engaging your actual grip strength. You're just holding onto it. Your arms are hooks. You
Right.
want to pull your elbows back and think about tucking your elbows and almost like pulling them to your pockets on lat pull. But with seated row, you're kind of doing the same thing, but you want to just pull your elbows back as far as you can. And you'll feel your shoulder blades almost hit each other, and you'll
Hmm.
feel your mid back lock in. And that's where you want to stop the movement. But think about your arms as hooks rather than it's all connected. Think about this, it's completely separate. It's just holding onto it. And now you're able to pull it. It's easier to learn that and the mechanics of that if you use like Versa grips first or
Right.
wraps. You can just practice that, just holding onto it, because you don't even have to really close your hand and keep it tight if you're
Hmm.
using wraps. So I would use wraps to kind of get the feel for that first,
Okay.
and then be able to incorporate that without wraps. So Miriam, I hope that helps.
Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
for mind muscle connection in general, obviously you know a lot about that, and I knew nothing about that when I was your age at all.
Right.
I didn't even know I was like mind muscle connection. That sounds like some course in college. That sounds like it. I didn't even know what that was about. I thought it was like
Right.
a PT thing. But no, mind muscle connection is important. If you're not focusing on the mind muscle connection, chances are you're going to hurt yourself in the gym, or you're going
Hmm.
to not make much growth happen. So
Right.
if you're working the muscle and you're not feeling it properly, or not feeling it, like say you're doing like a seated row where you're doing this and you feel your biceps working, and you know your biceps are working, and your
Right.
back's just kind of you're just going through the movements, basically you're not going to make much happen. So
No.
most important thing is mind muscle connection. Make sure use lighter weight, obviously. Make sure your mind is able to connect to that muscle that's working, hence why it's called mind muscle connection. Make sure you're feeling those fibers work, your quads, your calves, like literally with everything you do, even compounding this with bench, you want to focus on your chest.
Right.
So instead of packing on weight onto the bar, you want to basically put all your focus into that one muscle group. It's a chest day, you're on bench press, focus into your chest
Right.
and know that your chest is working. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a lot of tricep and shoulder growth, and that's probably going to dig into your other workouts and fatigue you. Um, that was something I really struggled with starting early on. I
Right.
would always be doing like a bench press, but my shoulders would be hurting. And that was a lot of the time because my shoulders weren't tucked back and I wasn't focusing on working my chest. So
Hmm.
I had a lot of shoulder injuries growing up because of that.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Um, for you, how did you learn about mind muscle connection? I'm assuming because of your coach, or
So actually, when I first started training on that Arnold blueprint, um, so I watched Pumping Iron when I first started, just I think everyone did. Well, I like
not me.
so I yeah, I don't know
I
about everyone
wish.
else, but I watched it and I watched it multiple times. I still watch it and I listened to a lot of interviews with Arnold and he explained why he was a high volume and hypertrophy bodybuilder.
Of
So
course.
this ties back into where I said I wish I learned heavyweight, but yet again, I'm glad I didn't because it taught me how to use lightweight, but use it with mind muscle connection. So when I did chest,
Yep.
I used I used light dumbbells for a long time. When I like the first 6 months was just light. It progressed to like from 25s to 35s, but I wouldn't go over 50 pretty much on everything.
Hmm.
And he just always said like when you feel like the best way to do it is when you get to a point where it starts to burn, slow it down and keep it controlled, but feel where it's burning and then like slowly like just control movements. That's pretty much what I learned.
That's a really good way to think about it. I think that's a more simplistic way to think about it, and that's going to help a
Yeah,
lot of people.
exactly.
I wish someone explained that to me in that same way when I was starting. I would have, oh man. But
Right.
yeah, no, that's a good way to elaborate on that, because a lot of people don't know the terms we talk about, and
Right.
that's going to simplify it. But yeah, definitely targeting that area that is burning, and like making sure that you're not just annihilating it, but
Mhm.
stimulating that
Yeah,
part of your body. It's really, really important.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, 10 that off, I think mind muscle connections almost on par with your training and diet when it comes to
Mhm.
importance, level of importance. So
Yeah, it's
make sure
very
you're working the muscles that you know you're trying to target. Otherwise, you're going to be probably stagnant for a long time.
right.
Um, I got a few topics here. Uh, should we leave out the politics on gyms being closed, or do you think we want to include that?
Do you feel? I mean, do you feel comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, I have a very passionate opinion on it. And I
Me
think we
too.
all do. So
Right. I think that'd be okay to talk about. I mean, it's relevant
it's
to
around
what
the
we're
world.
doing.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
think.
think
Yeah, I want to talk.
I
We can
heard
talk about it.
I heard Oregon is one of the last three states to have regulations in gyms. I'm not sure if it was just in general,
Mhm.
just general mandates that they've
Right.
applied, or if it was specifically for gyms. But I know we're one of the last few states just to be incorporating this into gyms. They're not only are some just closed, but some of
Right.
them have these regulations that make it just unfeasible for them to stay open. Um,
Yeah.
Courthouse Fitness in Kaiser, Oregon, or Salem, Oregon,
Right.
um, decided to stay open against the mandates. And the reason for this is because they have a facility with a pool. They have all these water utilities.
Mhm.
They can't afford to stay open, paying rent for this huge facility without people paying for it or using it. And it's an expensive membership.
Mhm.
A lot of people are not going to be paying this if they're closed down. A lot of people are going to be
Right.
canceling or freezing their memberships. Well, what happens then? They're paying $15,000 a week, being fined, and they're not bringing in income. So what they did was they stayed open against mandates. It's
Yep.
illegal to force a facility to close like that during this time.
Yeah.
It's unconstitutional. So they were able to stay open, and they still are able to stay open at full capacity. Obviously, wearing masks and all that stuff, wiping out equipment is a huge worry of theirs. So they're taking initiative on that, which is great.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they're staying open, dude. Like, I'm so happy that they're staying open because that's like the only gym close-ish to me that
That
is
makes
doing that.
sense. Yeah, for sure.
Um, I would love to go to Flex, but it's just a little far. So once I move to that Salem area, I'll do that. But
Yeah, bro, for sure.
Courthouse, man, like they took that step, and I think that motivated a lot of gyms to try to at least initiate a process to open again. I
Right.
mean, West Coast Strength, if no one knows, West Coast Strength is requiring medical. I forgot what they were referring it to, but they require this medical documentation that you need to request from like a therapist or doctor,
Mhm.
psychiatrist, whatever it is, and you can use that documentation and send it in as an application to resume your membership or resume your entry to that gym,
Okay.
and you'll gain access again,
That
and
makes
you can go
sense.
to West Coast. So that is, I even mentioned this to an owner when I worked at BFit. I mentioned it to the owner before they. This was like last year. I was like, well, why don't we just? People need the gym. People need their trainers. People need to work out, and a lot of those things that a lot of the equipment that is available at a gym, people don't have at home or any of it.
Right. Uh-huh.
So it's really important that we keep gyms open to people who need it at least. And I think I would say I'm one of those people, at least for my
Mhm.
mental health. And I love to do it. And having that freedom taken away is huge. So I wanted gyms to take that initiative to, accept medical documentation to allow people to use the gym. And that will obviously exclude people who don't do that or don't need the gym, but at
Right.
least we have the people who need it doing it. And I feel like
Mhm.
the people who need it are probably the only people that care about using the gym while paying for it. Other people just
Exactly,
kind of
man.
pay for their membership and use it when they think it's convenient.
Mhm.
Um, but there are a lot of people, at least here, that need that shit, and it's just kind of annoying for Kate Brown, our governor, to not see that, but keep salons open because people need their haircuts more than they need to work out, of course. But
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
bias on her side, and I'm annoyed by it. But
Yeah,
I think
I
these vaccines are out now, though, so this is the year where we either see things go back to normal or the vaccine ends up not working and we go back
yeah.
to 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you everything you said. Um, it's definitely messed up. Everything about it, it's like it's hard because it, local small businesses that are outside of like the food industry pretty much were affected badly, and the whole gym thing, even though like I just got into it and then a year after I got into it, it shut down, it still affected me big time too, you know, because I had to learn how to train from home. My dad had a small, like a thin barbell with thin weights, and it, you know, I was jogging more, but mentally it affected me and a lot of other people. And another thing I wanted to touch on too was like the pro bodybuilders that make a living off of this, you know, the people that make money off of,
Huge. Yep.
they got impacted really bad. A lot of them
Hmm.
had private gyms, but like still, like you gotta take into consideration that people, this is like their job. Like their job is to go lift weights, build muscle, and influence people. And if
Yeah,
you,
not everyone is as big as Chris Bumstead, where he can do all these promotional videos from home and
right,
still make a ton of sales.
exactly,
Those people need the gym to advertise that kind of thing and to
right,
advertise their life. And a lot of people who follow bodybuilders think their life is, they are bored to see them do anything else other than things inside the gym.
yeah,
And that's
seriously,
true. I mean, that's very true. I think with Chris Bumstead, people kind of, he's such a large topic and icon that people want to know about his life, not just the gym. But when it
right,
comes to people like I don't know, Kai Green's pretty big icon too. But a lot of the bodybuilders, I feel like people just pay attention to their gym life and not really much else.
right,
And if they're not in the gym, they're not making sales, they're not promoting their sponsors, and that's bad news for them. And
yeah,
also, I feel like those people probably need it more than us, the gym for
no,
sure.
seriously,
Imagine, imagine training 15, 20 years and building that physique, and then it's just taken away from you. And now, imagine that would feel so bizarre. Just the gym is normal for you to do every day for 20 years straight. Maybe you got sick a couple times, but 20 years
yeah,
straight, boom,
definitely.
taken away from you.
That's
Your
just,
life
yeah,
just changes.
it's weird to think about. It's like it'd be like laying off a person that's still really young, or like that's still young enough to stay in their career, and they got stripped from them and they love doing it every day.
Yep,
It'd be just
exactly.
like that. And then you're like, well, what do I do now? You know? So
Exactly. I mean, there's other things to do, but it's just your life becomes confusing,
yeah,
really confusing.
yeah. In a way, I think this is also a good thing though too, because maybe it kind of opened their eyes to like try something different. Like there's pros and cons,
Exactly.
obviously, but I feel like it kind of opened their eyes up to like maybe I should focus more on, like, if their relationship isn't good, focus more on like how can I like fix my
Exactly.
relationship with this person. So like I said, there's pros and cons to it. It's
Hmm.
business wise, it was a big learning, what's the word I'm trying to say, like a
Learning curve, kind of.
learning curve. Yeah, it's like a big,
Yeah.
like, definitely like people are a lot more cautious on what they do now. But I think 2020 was a bad and a good year. It definitely opened a lot
You
of
know,
our
I
eyes.
I am glad 2020 happened, and
Definitely.
it might have been like I don't know. Oh, it's so weird to say that I enjoyed 2020 happened, but I think people can obviously pick the reasons
Yeah,
why.
right.
People took so many things for granted, including myself.
It
And that one of those things were the gym, but also many other things, going out to eat, enjoying the little things. You couldn't even go outside for like a couple of days.
yeah.
Dude, what? And obviously I feel like going outside is something we can take for granted because that's freedom.
Exactly.
But the freedom to these places that employ people to work and give us goods and services, those were shut down. And that is where we were
Mm,
taking things for granted.
right.
And that opened my eyes a lot. And I'm glad that 2020 happened in that regard. I think though we're ready for it to be over. So
Definitely.
we've been through the learning experiences. We're done with that. We have learned. So
We get the
it's
point.
definitely changed. Yeah, it's changed a lot of us for the better, which is
Yeah,
awesome. And it's
definitely.
crazy that it took that to do it. Um, but it's going to set up that younger. I feel like the younger generation is going to come up a lot stronger than we did because of it. In a way,
Hopefully.
uh, I mean, yeah, hopefully, maybe not, but like even a couple senior classes, or I think was it one or two. I think it was at least last year's senior class didn't get to go to their graduation. They didn't go. They didn't get to walk.
Mm, dang.
I'm not sure about this year, uh,
Yeah.
but last year that was the case. Just imagine like no senior prom,
Mm,
no walking. Like I don't know. It's just kind of crazy
yeah.
that obviously it sucks that coincidentally it had to happen for
Right.
when they were graduating. But um
Yeah.
moving past that, like, never going to take the gym for granted again. Always going to appreciate it. Always going to appreciate the small things, going out to eat, like the little things, going out, walking downtown, going out for drinks now I can do. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
congratulations, by the way.
thanks. I went out for one drink and it was not like a club. I was just, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of boring, to be honest. Nothing's really
Right.
changed.
Nah.
Just a privilege.
Yeah, pretty
But
much.
thinking of things more like a privilege than things that you should be deserving or capable of doing. Think of it as like a privilege
Right.
rather than that. I think that would be
Definitely.
healthy, and that's what I've been doing. So, and even being alive is a privilege too. I mean,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have to dig that deep.
No.
I think I got a couple more topics here, and then I'm pretty much out. I've run
Okay.
dry at that point. I don't know if you
Okay.
have anything you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I can bring it up after you're done.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
So I got a good couple hours. We can cover however much we need or want to.
Awesome. Sounds good.
So I guess kind of I have one for dieting and one for bodybuilding or powerlifting. We've kind of went over bodybuilding and powerlifting a little bit, but I didn't
Mhm.
really elaborate on my full story about it.
Okay.
And you talked about lifting heavy a little bit. We could get into that too. So I think
Right.
we want to do bodybuilding and powerlifting first before dieting because the
Yeah.
last one was a little bit more heartfelt.
Right. Okay.
But people ask me at least a lot of the time, do you bodybuild? That's the first thing they go to, and I'm like, no, I'm kind of power builder, but I hate saying that. I hate that term, and the
Right.
terminology is just kind of unofficial. I consider myself in between,
Mhm.
and a lot of people do that. That's the huge niche right now, is being aesthetic but also crazy, freakishly strong. And that's what people look for, especially with that 19, 18 year olds deadlifting 700 pounds. I
Right.
mean, that's what people look for. And whether that's because they have a 6'6" arm span or that they just have ridiculously crazy thick backs for being a teenager, or
Yeah.
whether they were like fed Anadrol in their chicken when they were 5 years old.
Right.
I mean, it's fun to watch. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And bodybuilding or powerlifting, it's interesting because when you get into bodybuilding, old school bodybuilding was a lot like it was like a brotherhood,
Yep.
and you kind of saw powerlifting was so underground that it was literally just strongman. Powerlifting didn't really exist back then. It was such an
Yeah.
underground sport that people did not know it existed, and it's even kind of still like that, but it's making a
Yeah.
huge climb. Um, with bodybuilding, it used to be kind of like a brotherhood, but when you see like modern day bodybuilding, you can see some of that with a few of the athletes on stage, but it's so competitive, so
I
competitive.
yeah. Um,
Um, and then with powerlifting, it is always like a brotherhood. Everyone's hyping themselves up. It can be a little toxic, like, hey, your squat was high. You shouldn't have gotten 3 white lights on that. There are a lot of instances like that, but I
yeah.
mean, really, everyone just kind of butts heads for fun, and everyone can
Okay.
make fun of each other and laugh, and it's like a lot like a brotherhood. Bodybuilding is, I feel like, and this is just my opinion, and I think some other people agree with this, where it's just heading in a direction where it's so competitive and it's not necessarily toxic, but it's less, I guess, friendly, or um, just it's not much about uh, everyone doing it together. It's like it's
Yeah.
you, and you're in it to win it. So
Right.
it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about, where the sports are actually heading. What
For
do you
sure.
think on like bodybuilding and powerlifting in that regard?
So I have more on bodybuilding because I'm not really a power lifter, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I haven't competed yet, but I do know that like more in like the pro league too is like everybody backstage is just what I've heard is just it's kind of intimidating. Like I just heard it's intimidating and it's really serious. My coach actually, so he's like a close to a top tier bodybuilder, more like second tier, but he almost qualified for the Olympia and he placed second at a big bodybuilding show at Chicago Pro. And I don't know if you know him, Keon Pearson. He's a 212 bodybuilder.
Yep. Yeah,
So
I think he was the one that argued with or called out C-Bum, Chris.
yeah, I don't really know, but him and my coach Austin Carr, they were on stage and they were both smiling and having a good time. Like though that's what I feel like we need more of in bodybuilding is people like taking it serious, but having more fun with it. Because my coach always tells me like, have
Yeah.
fun with it, enjoy it while you can, because you're not going to get this forever, you know?
Yep. And I want to elaborate on that real quick. So
Yeah.
with Keon, if you don't mind, so with Keon, Conor McGregor in the UFC. We obviously know he was recently like humbled, but he's always been this cocky, extremely like sporadic figure. And that brings so much attention to that sport, and
Hmm.
it brings eyes and consumers, and people will
Right.
pay for his fights. Like he has the biggest fights of all time. When you're looking at bodybuilding, Keon is almost doing that same thing. He's a great example for
Hmm.
I'm trying to look for the term, but he's trying to bring eyes to the sport and bring attention into the sport, and I think that's brilliant. And he called out Chris. I was watching the I don't know if it was post show or it was pre show,
Hmm.
the conference.
Right.
He was calling out Chris like how he beats him, and Keon beats Chris in every aspect of his body. He's got a better back. He's got more width. He's got more
Wait,
thickness, more conditioning.
sorry, 1 second. Is it I think we're getting names mixed up. I think one of them's Breon and then one's Keon right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like
Maybe it
two.
was Breon.
I'm
It was one of
thinking you're
them though.
thinking of Breon because my coach
Okay.
is in 212 and that's classic. But no, anyway, continue what you're saying. Sorry.
Okay, so maybe Breon then, but one of the two was calling out Chris like, "Oh, I look better in this area, look better in this area. Like, I'm better than him last year. I got more conditioning, all this stuff." And the crowd was digging it. I mean, you could hear the crowd through the microphone. They were chanting, they were like cheering, screaming, like, "Yeah,
Right.
like this guy's gonna beat him," and or maybe booing. There was a lot of booing too.
Yeah, definitely.
And it brings eyes to the sport, and that's what it needs. I feel like it needs that little extra spice.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs too much of that, but I do think there needs to be a couple characters in bodybuilding. Like Kai
Hmm.
Green's an amazing actor, obviously. He's a
Right.
very, very outgoing, crazy, sporadic guy. And same thing with Brianna Keon, where they were calling out Chris, the number one contender,
Right.
the god of bodybuilding. So I mean, I'm happy to see that, and I'm glad that it's going in that direction because that's entertaining for
Yeah.
me and a lot of other people, and it's not like toxic.
No.
Um, a lot of people do interpret it like that, but it's not. It's for show mainly, and
Right.
it's for Chris laughs at it, Brian laughs at it, and it's all fun. I just like I've heard a lot of local experiences where
Oh yeah.
it can be very toxic. Obviously, on
Yeah.
a national level, this doesn't apply, but when it's like state or like local,
Hmm.
it's it can be really really toxic and terrible. Like really really difficult to make friends while competing. And there are
Right.
rare instances where people do make friends while they compete.
Right.
A lot of them make enemies though too, and they start beef. And I've seen that so many times, especially at West Coast Strength. Like
Really?
obviously, a lot of serious athletes are there, but like a lot of them have started beef with other bodybuilders, or not a lot of them, but I know a few. I
Yeah.
won't name them, obviously,
Right.
but I don't know. I think on a local level, I do see more of that. I don't know. I think about it, but national is really fun to watch. I think for everyone, even if
Right.
you're not in bodybuilding, it's
Yeah.
so cool to see a huge freak on stage.
Definitely.
Like it's amazing. It's art too.
One thing that I want to say was back in like Jay Cutler and Ronnie era, that was also a really good time in bodybuilding because for like
Hmm.
I don't know how many years it was, but it was consistent straight years where Jay was placing second. Did you pay attention to that rivalry or whatever?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I watched the Ronnie Coleman documentary on it,
Yeah,
and I've watched actually quite a few videos on that where they went head to head, and
it was a
Jay
big
kept
deal.
placing second. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy because there was actually like that's when I think bodybuilding was at the peak at like back in the early 2000s. That's when there was a peak of like competitiveness because Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler were just like talking each other like in the press conferences. They were kind of going back and forth, and Ronnie stands up on the table, takes his shirt off, and Jay just sits there and then
The
backstage.
typical like Conor McGregor UFC scenario. Yeah.
And we do need more of that. I mean, to a certain point, not like where they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you," and like try to break them off. You know what I mean? Like, but just more like talk, like
Yeah.
hype it up. Like they need more. They need more of that. Like,
Yeah, there are
you know what
definitely
I
some cool
mean?
characters. I mean, they're not just slabs of meat. They're not just,
No.
meatheads.
Yep.
They have fun personalities. Ronnie is so fun to watch. It's so entertaining to watch in his videos. Just him talking. It doesn't even have to be him
Right.
lifting. It
No.
could be him talking about anything. He's entertaining to
Right.
watch.
I know
Even
it's
about his life in college and him being a policeman. Jay, I mean, when I think about Jay, it's hard to think about like him talking about anything else other than lifting
he was a
because
robot.
yeah, because that's pretty much all he did his whole life. But it's
Yeah.
not a bad thing. But
Mm-mm.
it's just more entertaining for me to watch Ronnie, and he brought
Right.
so much attention to the sport in that regard. But yeah, I think that's the direction they, bodybuilding needs to head in.
Right.
But I miss that golden era. I wish we could bring the golden era back so bad.
Hmm.
Obviously, can't. I mean, it's just the retro style that I dig so much, and like the
Yeah.
physiques, and like where you're not crazy vascular, you're not crazy just monstrous, but it's containable. It's not more realistic. It's just different. Like
Hmm.
Arnold's physique
Yeah.
was like rounded and like a soft look. That's always been the physique I've wanted to chase. Or not always,
Mhm.
but that's what I want to chase now, at least for the past year.
Of course.
And that classic look, and that's what I want to compete in.
Right.
Um, but now it's taken such a different direction. And I think his name is Joel Kellett.
Hmm.
I wanted to mention him because he is currently in modern day bodybuilding. He's competed when he was younger, when
Hmm.
he was a teenager or early 20s. I don't remember, but he did okay in his competitions. But now he just posts like these old school photos, old school poses. He doesn't
Oh yeah.
use supplements at all. No whey protein, nothing.
Hmm.
It's all like egg whites and veggies and like whole foods. And
Right.
that's inspiring, and that's amazing that he's doing that, because
Right.
no one else is. Literally,
Mm-mm.
no, I don't think I know a single person in the fitness industry that's doing that.
Right.
That isn't even using whey protein, and you can
Um,
see it. It reflects in his physique. It's very, very similar to Arnold's too. So I would
definitely.
encourage you to check him out. I probably showed you him before, you know.
Yeah, I've looked at him before too. Does if is he the one that has like the worst of glasses?
Yeah, and he's
Yep.
Australian. He's Aussie.
I've seen his. I follow him and I've looked into it. In fact, I actually my coach wants me to use whey protein or isolate or whatever. I actually the past month I haven't been using any protein powders.
Oh wow.
I've just been when I my post workout's supposed to be protein with whey or with cream of rice, but instead I'll just add cream of rice and a bagel to my meal that has protein in it. So
Oh yeah.
it's some
See,
solid foods.
man, I'm gonna try that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna see how that works for me.
I feel so much better. I'm not like it's not a huge difference, but you can
Yeah.
tell you just your stomach digestion. It's good on your digestion.
Well, I mean, I feel like even just spending money on egg whites would be cheaper than buying protein and
Yeah.
doing all of that. I mean, you're going to be using a lot of egg whites, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot more beneficial for your body. And obviously, there are things in whey protein that are not typically supposed to be digested. It's safe to digest, but it wasn't made to.
No.
So just thinking about it like that uh, really intrigues me, and I want to give that a go. I think I'm gonna
Okay. Do it.
start that. That's
Just yeah.
spontaneous, but I think that's exciting, and that's something I really want to try, especially because looking at his physique and what he's accomplished without supplements is just amazing.
Right. And it's possible because food is so important. And I've learned that like working with my coach Austin, like I didn't realize how important food was. And ever since that, I've only thought about why that guy looks good because his diet is on point and he trains hard. That's my mindset now. And I'm glad that I got a coach this early on because he's an IFBB pro. And I don't even like think about like the drugs or anything. That's not my mind. My mind's like the food. Like that's all I think about to get big, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's something we should elaborate on too. Is like the
Mhm.
natural bodybuilding, like tested, untested.
Yes.
That's a
So
huge topic, and
it is.
I could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
People will always, uh, no matter it's a large group, small group, people will always knock on untested bodybuilding or unnatural bodybuilding,
Yes.
and I can understand why, of course. I mean, I used to
Oh
do the
yeah.
same thing.
Hmm.
Uh, I was doing the same thing for like until just last year, but
Right.
it's just one of those things where you have to understand the people on that stage are very aware of the fact that they have taken those substances.
Yep.
They understand it, they know the risks, and they are still doing it.
Exactly.
The only thing that differentiates those people on stage are their genetics and their work
Right.
and their diet, which I guess falls into their work, but
Yeah.
uh, nothing else. Their genetics and the work they put in. And that's the only thing
Exactly.
that differentiates people on stage. It's not the drugs they take, it's not the level of the drugs they take. It's how they built up to what they are now and their genetics, what they
Yeah.
were born with. And I
Exactly.
wish people would kind of open up to that idea a little more, but there are a lot of people who are just stubborn that immediately are like, no, they're on drugs. That's why they look like that.
You know,
And it's very difficult. And
yeah.
of course, I would be interested to see what those people would look like without those drugs. I
Yeah.
still think they would be insane looking. I still think they would look crazy. And there's no way to
Right.
really tell.
The
But
only the only thing you can do is just look back to when they first started. That's usually like the like around the first year or two before they took anything is kind of the best
yeah,
way to kind of get what, because most guys,
exactly.
correct me if I'm wrong, don't start until they're the genetic potential
That's what
naturally.
I was going to say.
Yep.
That is a big thing too. Until they reach their, some of them start earlier, but chances are you're not going to end up looking insane like those people if you start before you hit your genetic limit or
Right.
close. You are wasting your natural gains and throwing your genetics in the garbage by putting testosterone and stuff in your body before you've even
Yeah.
peaked.
Right.
I mean, did you see Chris Bumstead when he was in high school as a senior?
Yep.
Dude,
I
guy was yoked. I don't even care if he was on testosterone. There's no. I don't think he was on a steroid. I don't think he would have been on a steroid, but I do
oh
think he would have been on a testosterone probably. But dude, just insane. And that just goes
yeah.
to show that even without a ton of assistance, even just a little bit or no assistance,
Yeah.
those people are animals and they were born
Definitely.
for bodybuilding. They were born to, build those bodies.
Right.
And I wish people would kind of look into that a little bit more too. But
Right.
that's another thing. All those people were big before they got big.
Exactly. And one thing I've talked to you about this like personally before too, but at Physique and Kaiser, I'm not gonna name names like I said, like we said, but there's this guy who kept coming up to me and like three times I can list three times where he'd be like, be honest, man, like what are you taking?
Uh,
Like what do you, and it annoyed me. And I'm just like, look, man,
yeah, I get that too. But
I'm I, I'm like, look, man, I've told you this multiple times, and this is the last time I'm gonna tell you. You I obviously I'm natural. That's all I'm gonna say. Like I I'm not against it, but I'm not doing it right now. I I focus on diet and training. Like when you're natural, that's what you really have to focus on. And I've tried explaining to some people like it's you have to stick with a good diet and you have to eat a lot of food. Like the guy that was telling me that, I'm like, how many meals are you eating? He's like two, sometimes three meals. And I'm like, that's your problem. You got to eat at least
yeah,
four
man.
to five meals. You got to train with the goal. It cringes me hearing that. And I'm like, I get mad because, like I said, I'm not against people that take drugs. It's just upsetting when you worked like people with drugs work hard.
No,
You
they take away your credentials
that's
immediately.
and like I said,
People have done that to me.
yeah, I
Uh,
respect people that take gear because they put effort into it, you know?
yeah, it allows them to train harder for the most part. Obviously, it just boosts your muscle growth, but
Yeah.
nothing's going to happen once you train harder.
Right.
Uh, People have taken that, or people have done that to me, where it's like, oh yeah, I've taken tests before, I've done a few cycles, and people are like, oh, that's why. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, of course, yes, that's why.
Yeah.
They strip me of my credentials.
Right.
Uh, and it's funny because I actually was more lean before I did my first one,
Okay.
because the same time when I did the first one was the moment I decided, oh, I need to eat more because I was
Right.
learning still. And I was way leaner and I almost like I wasn't not as big for sure. I was not as strong. I think my deadlift and squat were in the same neighborhood, but my bench, no.
Right.
When I started it for the first time, I was I was more shredded beforehand, and then I started to get bigger. I started to look a little more fluffier.
Right.
That's what I liked, and I did a few more, and then boom, like I'm here now.
Hmm.
But I've been off of it for just testosterone for months now, and I
Oh,
look better
got
than
you.
I've ever been.
Right.
So and I'm stronger than I've ever been, other than the injury involved. But
Right.
um, I think I like to consider myself like living proof as like drugs don't really fucking matter because I
Right.
feel like I could have gotten to this point without it, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it has helped. But that's what I tell people. I'm like, hey, like people will ask me, are you on steroids? I'm like, no, but I do tell them like I've ran testosterone before,
Right.
and I'm gonna take that step to steroids if I feel like I need it to gain that size or gain the
Right.
strength necessary to compete on a national level,
Exactly.
um, or just fuck around and have fun.
Pretty
So
much.
yeah, but yeah, I understand the risks. I've read into them. I'm gonna be smart about it.
Mhm.
Uh, I just know there's a few friends of mine who are irritated when I like if I told someone I was natural or ignore the questions of asking if I'm natural. So I
Right.
decided to just like answer it. Uh,
Okay.
I because I really don't care. I mean, Mark Bell
Okay.
announced it. I told you, and like a few other people announced it. It's just like whatever. It's testosterone. Like, how much could it possibly do?
And yeah, and the thing I really want to put out there too is like, um, when people don't talk about it, it's not that they're hiding it. It's that there's 14-year-olds taking tests right now and taking SARMs
Yeah,
because their favorite influencers like, I take this, here's this, but they don't put a disclaimer like, you should not take this until you're at least 20, or you know what I mean, like something along those lines. Like wait until
yeah.
you're
At least you have this amount of experience, or you're at this level, and or
yep.
you've done this and gotten to here. Like, man, it's just kind of it's your first 2 years of weightlifting. You're basically on steroids already. You're
Exactly.
you are progressing so fast. You're progressing as fast as someone who's at 5 years taking testosterone or roids. Your first 1 or 2 years, man, people thought I was on steroids my first year straight out of high school because I
Right.
grew so damn fast. And it's because I started eating, I started training hard. I was more consistent than anyone I knew. I was working harder than anyone I knew because I got addicted to the process.
Exactly.
And I pack on 30 pounds in 3 years. And then when it, no, wait, no, 2 years, I packed on 30 pounds. My last
Damn.
2 years, and I'm at 4 years now, so this will be
Yep.
the last 2 years up till
Okay.
now. I gained 20 more pounds. So I
Right.
was 150 pounds, and now I'm 200 to like 210.
Right.
And I could see why people would be like, "You're on roids," and it's like, well, people would think you're on roids too if you did the same thing. Like if
Yeah.
you would be where I'm at. I mean,
Right.
obviously your genetics would differentiate us, but
Hmm.
people just don't understand. It's the same case with you. You got just absolutely jacked out of high school at a young age.
Right.
People are like, dude, be honest. And they ask you like 4 times because they're
I
like, I
know.
swear this guy is doing something when you're not. You just
Right.
know what you're doing and you've put in the work and you've learned and
Mhm.
you want to learn. That's actually a topic I wanted to talk about too. When I
Okay.
was starting, I got obviously obsessed with it. You got obsessed with it. The
Yeah.
process of getting bigger and building your body.
Right.
Um, man, it's I if I did not know something, or if I needed to know something, or was wondering about something, I would immediately. It doesn't matter if I'm working out. It doesn't matter if I'm at school. I would immediately go on the internet or
Yep.
YouTube and research it.
Exactly.
I would research how much protein can my body actually absorb, how much is creatine bad or good. Fish
Right.
oil. What does fish oil do? What does collagen do? Uh, I mean, does hitting legs boost your testosterone or boost your testosterone flow? A lot of that stuff is a myth, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge. I would say that's probably the biggest reason on why I was able to progress as fast as I did. It wasn't just lifting weights hard. It wasn't just
Right.
eating a ton of food. It was building my knowledge around building my body and my
Right.
diet and my training regimen. And that's one thing people need to do. You don't need to buy a workout program
Mm-mm.
from Chris Bumstead or Kino Body or
Right.
any of those bigger brands
Exactly.
to get big, especially at the beginning. You could do anything and get jacked.
Yep.
You just need to do your research and know what you're putting in your body and know what you're doing to get the most efficient results.
Yep. One thing I want to say is I've spent $0 on any workout plan or anything. Like I'm gonna be honest. I I bought an ebook from Jay Cutler, but that was in last summer when I was, already
I
into it.
consider that research.
Yeah. So what I do is I've been listening to a podcast. Do you know who Fuad Abiad is?
I've heard of the name. It sounds really familiar.
So he started rest in peace Luke Sandow. He started it with Luke Sandow. He does a podcast, and that's kind of what inspired me to do this. But been listening to him to him when I do yard work and stuff, and when I work for the past year. And now I'm on my job, I do prep work, so I can put in headphones. I listen and research bodybuilding as a whole. Like throughout my work shift, I'm constantly learning about nutrition,
Oh,
food.
dude, that's brilliant. Oh
I,
man,
I
that's
listen to
perfect.
I listen every day. Like I'm not even kidding you. Every day I listen to More Plates, More Dates. I've tapped into him lately. Even though I like I said, even though I don't take the drugs, I still listen to the science and research behind it. That way, if later down the road to become
Yeah.
a pro, I need to. And my if my coach is giving me this stuff, I don't need to ask him. I already know like why we're doing this, why it works, why
Yep.
how to
That'll
be
speed up the process,
there.
make
And
things safer for you.
yeah, and even though taking drugs is really dangerous, there's still a safe way to do so. And like I said, I'm still learning, but I like to listen to constantly learn. That's my favorite thing is I listen to podcasts every single day about nutrition, dieting, and even mindset because that's important.
Yeah, that's huge. I would agree with you completely on that. There is definitely a safe way to do them,
Yep.
and tuning into stuff like that will boost your knowledge 10 times over, tenfold.
Right.
And that's underestimated is just researching and acquiring knowledge just because. Not that you're going to be doing that now, but you're gonna if you think you're going to do it later, you just want to understand it. It's really,
Right.
really important, and it's still interesting stuff nonetheless.
Yeah.
I remember getting my blood test, a text or my blood test with my doctor to check my like just testosterone levels because I was like coming off,
Right.
and it was low, but they eventually came back to normal. My estrogen was really high, and all this wicked stuff. And I was like, okay, I need to do these more often, and I need to be safer about what I'm doing.
Right.
So then I started taking like milk thistle and stuff to regulate my estrogen while I'm on the testosterone, and then like obviously blood tests to see if how high it is or if it's low or being affected at all.
Right.
But that's really important stuff and the stuff you need to do if you are taking your body seriously and your health seriously. It's
Yeah.
not a playground with that.
Mm-mm.
Even testosterone, it's not a playground. It can still fuck up your hormones in the long run and your body. I mean, unless you want shrunken testicles for the rest of your life, I mean, you're going to take it seriously. So that was actually a scary thing for me is like, am I still going to be fertile like
Ooh.
later? And
Yeah.
that's not really, it's obviously a risk but the chances of it are very, very low if I'm safe about it. So
Okay. And
low to
yeah,
none. So
you
it is
know,
what it is.
that's one thing that like when I do my research, I just want to make sure like before I turn my body into a science experiment pretty much.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're doing. I like to listen, like I don't want to scare myself or scare other people, but I think it's important if you're going to take that route to look to before anything else, look into the negative as like the most negative thing that can happen to your body and accept it
Yep. And
because
always keep that in mind.
yes, because I've learned so much that scares me about it just thinking about it because it's like there was this guy who competed at the Olympia back in like the 90s, I think, who he took so much stuff to the point where a regular person wasn't even taking half of it. And they showed his liver and his heart, and that scared me. I'm like, Jesus is like,
Yeah. And
it's
there's videos of them getting their blood drawn and it's just super, super thick. And they have all
it,
these blood clots
it's scary.
because of that, their blood pressure. And yeah, I can trust myself not to get to that point, but
Right.
I understand that, certain people have genetics that make them more vulnerable
Right.
to these kinds of issues and risks. Um, and even hair loss.
Yeah.
If you're taking some of those compounds that are DHT derived, I believe is the term. I forgot
Right.
the abbreviation, but DH derived. If you have genetic hair loss in your family, or at least with your chromosomes and your genetics,
Right.
it's going to accelerate that, and you're going to see that sooner in life. That's obviously not that big of a deal. That's not a huge risk,
Right.
but there are things
Yeah.
like that, where you're more vulnerable to these kinds of things, and it's a bigger danger for you. And I think people need to be aware of that too.
For sure.
Um, yeah, you're basically turning your body into a science experiment. You're right.
Yeah.
That's is
Yeah,
which is cool
it
and
is.
freaky at the same time.
Right. So definitely. And like I said, I don't want to ever promote the use of it, but I'm also, like I said, I'm not against it because it's, it's an interesting, like bodybuilding is really interesting because when I listen to studies and stuff, especially by More Plates, More Dates, like Derek, do you know him? Like, have you
Oh
seen his
no,
stuff?
I don't. I haven't.
So you should look into him. He's one of the only YouTubers that goes into like he goes into words that I still don't understand, and he goes into everything because he wanted to create a platform where people can look at the pros and cons, and he's not biased, so he goes into both sides. So just like one thing we can take from this is like just constantly study about it and do your research.
Yep. I think that's the biggest thing for
Yeah,
sure. Research comes first, and I think that'd be the most common opinion
for
on that.
sure.
Some people just start it, but
Yeah,
the people who are in it for the long run are gonna take that time to research it first, obviously. So
yeah, for
that's
sure,
what I believe.
for sure.
I don't have any more questions on my end. That was
Okay,
everything off of my sheet.
that's good. So I have a few like questions. Um, so you've had injuries, right? You were saying that
Mhm.
you've had injuries. So, um, do you want to talk about it and talk about how you've overcome it and how you're still trying to get through it for
Oh
anyone else
yeah,
struggling?
yeah. Actually, I have a really good answer for that. I think
Okay, good.
so. I talked to my friend Jake on this, and I was talking about how like, oh man, I've had tendonitis for like 2 years straight.
Damn.
I can't do a bicep curl without going through this biting pain.
Mm,
He recommended me like the supplement. He recommended me collagen, and like it helped. But like he did say something that like really, really stood out to me. And it's like, well, this is bodybuilding. You're
yeah.
never gonna feel 100%. Your body's never gonna be 100. I guess 100% in a way.
Yeah.
You're never gonna go through a moment where you're not having like aches or pains. Really,
Hmm.
that's if you're trying to win.
Yeah.
So, and I'm very passionate about what I do. I work out, I train hard, and I get it. My body's not going to be able to recover 100% every day.
Mm-mm.
So, injuries are one of those things where it's like, okay, obviously, I don't want to push myself to where it sets me back, where I get a huge injury or minor injury, and I have
Right.
to stop doing one thing or the other. But more so, like, okay, I have to understand that there is a fine balance, and I need to pay attention to how my body's feeling and pay attention to how my workout split is affecting my body and how it's recovering.
Right.
Um, in specific, my shoulder injuries, my left shoulder for my whole life, really, and since I started lifting 4 years ago, has always had issues. And that's just general pain. And it made it to where I wasn't able to even bench press at all without having an injury there. So
Wow.
rotator cuff issues were a big thing for me. My biggest advice is like you need a physical therapist or physiologist if you're going to be lifting avidly. That's
Mhm.
guaranteed. And if you don't, you're going to run into a lot of problems that you're not going to know about, or you're not going to be aware of, or you're not going to know how to deal with them. Having that physiologist or chiropractor, physical therapist there, that's going to ensure you that you're going to find a way to work around it if you do not know how.
Right.
So tendonitis for me, obviously, focusing on the contraction and doing tempo repetitions, and like obviously lowering the weight and taking a few extra rest days, I was able to work around it. Eating more
Mhm.
food too.
Right.
With my hamstring, I can do certain exercises that don't irritate it. I can do certain movements that can build other parts of it, like the outside, so the outside can compensate for now. Like working around it is the biggest thing.
Right.
Um, you never want to get to a point where you actually have to stop doing everything, obviously.
Mhm.
And that, I mean, a back injury could do that. You need to be careful when you're deadlifting and stuff. So I've had
Yep.
one back injury doing high bar squat a couple of years ago where I strained my whole left lat, and
Ooh.
I wasn't even able to bend down or do anything. And I'm pretty sure I pinched a nerve too on my low back when that happened. Uh, and I literally just did everything standing up super straight.
Yeah.
Like, so I worked around it. That I would encourage anyone who goes through an injury to try to work around it, but make sure you're getting professional help to be able to do that and figure out the best way to do that at low risk.
Right.
Um, that's how I've done it, at least. I used to go without professional help at the beginning, and obviously the problems never went away. But now that I got professional help, they're going away as I work around it, rather than just it being an endless cycle.
Awesome.
So that's what I would encourage.
Well, good. Yeah. Um, so yeah, we covered that one. And then another thing I was gonna ask, since you're a powerlifter, what are some tips you can help people get over one, the fear of lifting heavy weights, and just what do you want to go over that topic real quick?
Yeah, powerlifting. man, I guess I was an ego lifter when I started, so it wasn't really a fear for me. It was more like something I sought out.
Right.
So I guess you could start from two different perspectives: either an ego lifter, where you just want to be an alpha man who's big and strong,
Right.
or you're humble about it and you're kind of scared to get into that kind of crowd. Powerlifting, um, when I got into it, my form was god awful and terrible, and it got judged 24/7, and it even does now. Even
Right.
though I think my form is flawless, it still gets just destroyed by some people on the internet, which is hilarious. But
Yeah.
I would encourage people to literally just go for it and talk to people who do it. The reason why I say talk to people who do it is so you have someone, whether it's some random person online or a friend or a coach, someone who's telling you whether you're doing something wrong or right and how to fix it. And when you're doing that, you're able to get into the game faster. You're able to get closer to your first competition and closer to lifting heavy weight faster.
Right.
Um, with a guide there, you don't have to be scared of hurting yourself. You don't have to be scared. I mean, there's always that 1% risk, but you
Right.
don't have to be scared of pursuing lifting heavy weight off your chest or pulling heavy weight off of the ground or putting heavy weight on your back. You have a guide there that's ensuring you that you're doing this properly and you're not going to screw yourself up.
Right.
And tweaks happen sometimes. You hurt something or you tweak something that, I mean, you can work around that. But when I first started, that was pretty much what I needed. I needed my weights coach to tell me, hey, how do I bench press correctly? Or how do I bench press more weight?
Right.
And that's the most important thing when it comes to that sport, because it's such a risky sport.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. And I was gonna ask another question. And we keep spacing.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This is kind of funny because a lot of people have this question, including myself, because I've used both. Can you explain to the people the difference between a free bar and a Smith machine squat, and the pros and kind of go like the pros and cons of both of them? Because I know they can
Oh,
both
okay.
be
Oh, regular
beneficial.
barbell or Smith machine. Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually talked about this with someone a couple months ago, I think, or a month ago, where a girl was squatting with the Smith machine because she said that her knees flared up when she would squat on a free bar,
Hmm.
a barbell. And this is counterintuitive. If you feel pain or feel discomfort when you're squatting with a barbell, that doesn't mean you should squat with a Smith machine. That's actually
Right.
going to make it worse.
Okay.
Um, you need to be squatting with you can do both, but I would encourage that you do work with a barbell just to work to stabilize your muscle groups. Your knees, your knee pain is never going to go away if you
Mm.
don't figure out how to strengthen your knees and work around it and better your form to where that isn't an issue.
Right.
If you're doing a Smith machine over and over again, your knees are still going to hurt when you do certain things, and that's going to happen for the rest of your life, and it's only going to get worse if
Okay.
you ignore it
Right.
and do things that don't strengthen it. So working with a free barbell benefits so much more things than just being a cool powerlifter. Like, obviously you can't squat on a Smith machine in the competition.
Mhm.
But when it comes to squatting with a barbell, you learn so much just about your body and how it works and your joints and how everything works together. And you're also strengthening more than just your legs. You're strengthening your back, your knees, your ankles, uh, low back, shoulders. So it's more than just squatting with a different type of bar.
Right.
It's a whole different movement. Your body has to control it by itself, and people who recognize that they have knee pain on it, I understand that it can be scary and understand that it doesn't feel great. But at that point, when you recognize those problems, whether it's
Mhm.
ankle pain, knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, anything while squatting, you need to figure out where that's coming from and why that's happening.
Mhm.
Whether it's through or not a psychiatrist, what the hell, a physiologist, uh, chiropractor, weights coach, whatever it is, work with them to fix that issue and strengthen the issue, like your knees, or your
Right.
shoulders. And that's going to make you so much stronger in the long run. And that's what weightlifting is actually about, is for doing it for longevity and building your body, and not building your body.
Right.
You're trying to build your body and make it stronger, and your joints are part of that. Your ligaments are part of that. So
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing that society needs to look for in the fitness industry or the fitness world and their journey, is to not run from things that, you know, not run from their issues and settle for something less.
Right.
uh, they need to face them and improve. So
Exactly. That makes sense. So now that we're on top of squats, the topic of squats, a lot of people don't like training legs, and when they train legs, a lot of people will say that they train hard, but they get training hard, they get it mixed up with like lifting heavy instead of with
yeah,
intensity. So
so
yeah, I struggle with that too a little bit.
that is I would say that's a work ethic thing.
Hmm.
I mean, there are times to lift heavy with certain movements, and there are times to lift lighter and just destroy and annihilate your legs and aim for growth.
Right.
You can, I mean, obviously, strength and heavy weight is going to benefit your leg aesthetics in the long run, and training for aesthetics and growth and volume is going to benefit you in the long run as well with your aesthetics. So when it comes to lifting heavy with your legs, I understand that some people confuse lifting hard and with intensity with increasing the weight load. I do think there's a time and place for like volume and heavy weight, and I think that squats are one of those where it's not really a high volume movement. I would never go above 10 reps on a squat personally,
Okay.
especially for joint and ligament reasons. Even with knee sleeves, still going to wreak havoc on your joints with lightweight. Just that repetitive movement. Um, in the long run, it's going to be very difficult to recover from that and hit another hard leg session that week or the next week.
Right. That makes
Uh,
sense.
when lifting with intensity, mind muscle connection is a huge thing on legs, and it's really easy to lose that because leg days are so difficult.
Yeah.
So you need to find move you all right. Legs are one of these things where it's like you have your favorite movements: leg press, squats, lunges, hamstring curl, whatever it is, leg extension, the common ones. There are other ones that you may not be doing because you're not comfortable with doing them, or you might not feel the mind muscle connection as well.
Right.
Those are the movements you need to actually do. And the
Okay.
reason why is because bodybuilding is about working from different angles and working your muscle in a different type of way. So you're
Right.
not ever abandoning a certain muscle group. Um, let's say like the outside of your quads are lacking.
Mhm.
Well, you can do a leg extension with your legs pointed in a little bit to, improve your outer sweep of your quad, or the teardrop. There are certain hamstring movements that benefit working the top of the hamstring versus the bottom, and one of those would be good mornings. So
Mhm.
the reason why you should do good mornings, if you're not comfortable with them, is to build the top of your hamstring and that little section up there
Okay.
that separates it from the glute. Um, I used to run away from the harder movements or the more difficult movements on leg days, or ones that I just didn't like, and one of those would be good mornings and barbell lunges,
Right.
um, weighted barbell lunges, and that's just because they were difficult, and I feel like I wasn't as good at them. When I started doing them, and I obviously got better at them, and I started seeing more growth. So I kept doing them, and then those became comfortable movements that I work with. And now I can literally probably do any leg exercise, and I'm fine with it. It feels
Right.
good. Obviously, it's difficult, but I can feel that mind muscle connection. I feel the quality of the movement, and I'm doing it with a purpose. So that's what I would encourage people to do mainly on their leg days, is to find those things that are difficult for them and work outside your comfort zone.
Right. That makes sense. So I messaged my coach about it today though. We changed up my split to where I'm doing um we're having a hamstring and quad day, like 2 different days. For me personally, I think I'm going to benefit from that because when I do everything at once, it kind of overwhelms my body, and it kind of makes it to the
Mm-hmm.
point where I feel like I'm training harder on quads than hamstrings. Because when I train hamstrings, it gets so intense where my legs get sharp pains just in the muscle
That's
to the
such an interesting thing, dude, because
yeah.
I cannot for the life of me, like, well, I can work out hamstrings, and sure, it feels like a muscle burn and it's painful.
Yeah.
Quads, 3 times as worse. I can feel the lactic acid flooding my quads. Oh,
Uh,
oops.
uh,
Am I still there? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
you're there now.
My battery's on 20%.
Uh-oh.
Damn. It was on like 80.
Wow.
Damn. Okay. Well,
Damn.
I still got good time amount of time left. That's probably like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Uh anyways, what I was saying is like when I'm doing quads, I feel the lactic acid just pouring into the muscle and just
Yeah.
soaking it, and it hurts
Yeah.
and it's just so painful. With hamstrings, I don't feel that at all. Like my
Okay.
hamstrings have made insane growth, especially since last year because it was a focus of mine.
Right.
But I just don't get that pain for some reason, man. It's so weird.
That for me, it's like, I don't know. Like mentally training legs is hard, but there's some days I can tap into it where I just like, I don't care what happens. I'll do it. It's every now and then. But like I said, I really feel like, when now that we're separating, quads and hams and, or hams and glutes and then quads, I think that will really help me because the quad days is where we just do back squats, hack squats, extensions, and leg press. That's it. And then on my hamstring days, like just putting more emphasis on, so instead of working out 5 days a week, it'd be six now. I think like putting those in two different categories might help me mentally, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Uh, does that mean you're doing like anterior, posterior days?
What do you mean? So I don't know what
Or
that.
like you're working on quads and chest one day and you do hamstrings and back like the next day as an example?
Uh,
Or or you sep
just
or you just separating them in the same day, you the same workout?
just so hamstring and glute, that's one day, and then the quads is another day.
Okay, cool. Okay, okay.
So
So
instead of having
it is kind of like an anterior posterior split then.
a rest day on Thursday, or on sorry, so instead of
You
having a
split
rest
your
day
yeah,
on,
okay.
so Sunday won't be a rest day. That will be, let's just say that's my hamstring day. So Wednesday's quads, Sunday's hamstrings, and that should give me enough time to recover in between.
Okay. Okay. So that is kind of like anterior, posterior, and kind of it's just kind of like thrown in there. I see.
Modified kind
That's
of.
I like that. If that helps you, that I feel like for most people that would help them grow their legs and put more energy into those muscle groups. Because hitting those all in one day can be very exhausting. And once your
Right.
quads are fatigued, it can be harder to work your hamstrings. Like if you're doing good mornings, your legs are probably going to be shaking like hell once you destroyed your quads, trying
Yeah.
to stand with that weight on your back. So it's understandable why you'd split them up. I think that's honestly more efficient if you can take
Mhm.
out that extra rest day and put in those hamstrings and glutes. That's going to be extremely beneficial as long as it's not killing you.
That
So
that's
that's a smart
that's
way to do it.
that's like I said, me and my coach talked about it today, but he's like, if your body can handle that recovery, which I think it can, because remember when I said when I first started training was 6 days a week, my body is used to recovery and it recovers quick. And now that I'm dieting and eating good, it should recover a bit faster. So
Oh yeah, you're eating a lot, so that's yeah,
so
you should be able to pull that off. So
so on my social media, I'll obviously be posting on my story, and I don't think we'll know a big difference until like a month, like maybe that's the earliest, because we'll find out. But he says that this should really help my leg growth. So
I think it will too. That's gonna be way beneficial for you in the long run, man.
yeah,
Figuring out what split works best for you,
yeah,
especially now in your huge growing phase around this age.
yeah,
Knowing that now is gonna, like I said, give you a huge head start. So you're gonna see a ton of growth now that you're figuring out what you already need and what works best
yeah,
for you. That's
right.
huge.
And another thing that I want to touch on too is like, it's in my opinion, I think it's okay to consistently switch your diet and training, because me and my coach, when before I was with him, I thought that changing things up too fast was really bad for you. Honestly, what I've noticed is that's why was able to achieve 212, like the weight 212, and still have a six pack and still look lean, is because we're constantly switching things up. Like one week, maybe egg whites and oatmeal will treat me fine. The next week it won't, so we'll switch it out. Like if you're constantly switching things, it's kind of like shocking the muscles in a way.
Oh yeah, no, your body will it is true. Your body will adapt to what you're doing and what
Hmm.
you're eating and training.
Yeah.
With dieting, it's not. Uh, as prominent, but with
Okay.
training is very, very prominent. You can see it
Definitely.
almost immediately where things start becoming easier. You start
Yeah.
multiplying the weight you're doing. You're able to lift more weight doing the same movements. You notice that very commonly with your training when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's at that point you should start recognizing like, hey, switching things up would be very beneficial for me. And I mean, lo and behold, you become really sore the next day after switching things up.
Yeah.
So, and that's for a damn good reason. And that's
Yeah.
good to see. So that's also underestimated by people. You need to you need to switch things up. And I think at a minimum of 8 weeks is when, or maximum of 8 weeks is when you should start switching things up. Because after eight
Right.
weeks, that kind of, you can notice, I think with most people, you'd be able to see the adaptation crossover from your body to your weightlifting and your
Right.
dieting. Not necessarily do you have to eat more things or different things, but maybe eat different times during the day or something
Mhm.
like that to experiment with your body. But with your training, it's very easy to see your body adapt to what you're doing, and you need to switch things up. And I would say, like I said, the minimum or maximum amount of time for you to be doing the same split or the same reps and movements would be 8 weeks.
Got you. That makes sense. Yeah. So aside of that, um, so you're pretty big on social media, starting to get decent followers, amount of followers,
Getting there.
and which means you get the same, which means more haters and stuff. So what do you do to like ignore it and move past people hating on you and the
So that
negativity?
is that's actually a common question I get. Um, kind of. So I don't acknowledge them 99% of the time.
Right.
I only engage with those kinds of people if I think it's educational for them.
Okay.
Uh, like they're going to learn something or they don't understand something. Uh, I mean, if they're going to take it as constructive, then they can. If not, then they don't.
Right.
Um, but I've always understood that, hey, people are going to attack me for what I do and posting what I post. That's fine. I also
Right.
have a ton of people who bullied me in high school that are trying to dick ride me now because I'm doing really well.
Right.
So, I mean, I've noticed that, and I make sure, you know, I'm not engaging with those people, and that's just my decision. So
Right.
haters have never been a huge like issue for me. Like in high school, there was a guy who posted on his private Instagram. Actually, someone showed me it that he was like explaining on his post, uh, "Hey, I want to know what this guy Seth Mills is on. He seems like he's on some kind of steroid, or maybe it's the cre." He actually thought it was creatine, which
Oh my
is bizarre. It's just insane how big of a topic creatine was in high school, man.
Yeah.
Someone said it was a steroid as a joke, and it just became a
Uh,
serious topic.
yeah.
So, but that happened, and then that was one of the bigger ones. Then some of these fan pages, I don't know if they're for real or not, but they're there.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of the hate I get is just talk from behind my back locally. I
Yeah.
walk into
Definitely.
West Coast Strength, and some people tell me certain things, and I'm not going
Hmm.
to say what they are because I feel like that's kind of compromising the um, confidential side of things.
Right.
But yeah, uh, and I'm not. It doesn't bother me. I think it actually kind of drives me too because
Hmm.
there is a reason why these people are saying things. If it was constructive criticism and they had good intentions, it would come straight to me, and it
Right.
would be in like a not a nice manner, but not a rude one. It
Right.
would be in like a an okay manner, like a communication, just general communication.
Mhm.
Um, but if people are talking behind my back and people are sending these ruthless DMs like, dude, your squat was so fucking high, or like you think you're huge, but whatever. And it's just like I understand that these people have their own problems. It's not just going to be me. Why it's
Right.
not? I'm not going to be the main reason why they're saying these things. They have other
Mhm.
issues, but not just that. There is a reason why they're saying these things, and I've actually felt this feeling before. Is it's literally just straight up jealousy, and there's
Yep.
no other way to explain it. What would motivate someone to say something bad about you? The
Right.
fact that they either want that or that they're not able to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
or they want the attention from it or something, or it's for clout too. It could be for that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
the reason why I think that mainly is because I've been in that position. I've seen people who are crazy strong at 19, 18 years old when I was that age. I saw people my same age lifting nearly twice the weight I was for like bench or squat or whatever it is. It
Right.
doesn't matter how much they weighed. I would just see it and I would be like, maybe they're on something,
Yeah,
even if they weren't. And
right.
I would like send DMs to be like, hey dude, like you got to be on steroids. And when I was like 18, 19 years old, I don't do that anymore because I don't care. I'm
Right.
focused on myself. But I understand what drives someone to go out of their way to say something negative to you, and I'm sticking to that.
Mm-hmm.
um, so that it no longer bothers me because I feel like I understand how those people feel and why they're saying those things.
Awesome. Sounds good. Real quick, back on the training topic. I remember Miriam, she asked me on my thing the question. She's like, how do you when should you know, like when do you what's an indication that you should do a deloading phase in your training? Do
uh,
you
Gotcha. I feel like people should know who Miriam is, and we're just gonna bring up her name.
right.
she is a she's a mainly bodybuilder in the Salem area. She's fucking amazing. I think that's pretty much all we need to say.
Right.
Uh, Miriam, shout out to you for asking that question.
For sure.
Um, so she was talking about proper timing for a deload.
Yep.
All right. So everyone knows, or I guess not everyone, but it's a very common assumption that you need to take uh, time off after a certain amount of time lifting. The best way I can describe that is, as an example, is like assuming you train for 2 months straight, doing the same split, same amount of rest days, 1 or 2 rest days a week.
Right.
Eventually, your body's going to start being taxed and it's going to need a longer break to kind of just go through a general refresh.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people assume that that's just going to be like 1 week long or like 3 days of straight rest, and then you can go back to the normal thing. You can deload too.
Okay.
A deload is literally just doing these same amount of movements or less. You can take away some movements, like assuming your chest day is like 2 chest movements, 2 tricep movements, 2 shoulder movements. You could do just 2 chest movements, 1 shoulder, 1 tricep movement, or something like that, and just kind of negate it so it's not as taxing on your body,
Okay.
and lower the weight to where it feels like you're maybe working like 60%. And
Right.
as soon if you're working past, you're going to be tempted, but if you're working past 60%, your deload it's like kind of obsolete at that point. You're not
Right.
deloading anymore. You're just working out. So
Right. That makes
uh,
sense.
you need to make sure your deload is like 60% effort, even 50%, because you're going to be maintaining and you could even still build some muscle that way.
Right.
Your eating doesn't change. Your eating doesn't change. You should still be eating a lot of food, or you should still be on your cut or whatever you're doing
Right.
to assure your body is, progressing towards what your goal is or recovering properly. Um, but I think the proper time for a deload would be training for 8 weeks. I feel like that's a pretty long. That's plenty. 8 weeks long on the same split.
Right.
That's a fine balance, I would say. And then after those 8 weeks, either you have the choice to take I would say 3 consecutive rest days, maybe a fourth if you feel like you
Okay.
need it, or you can go into a deload. And the deload is going to be up to you, 1 to 2 weeks long, because these are going to be like basically active rest days. 1 week
Right.
of deload, I would say, equals 2 rest days, in my
Okay.
opinion, roughly. That's not like exact, but that's rough for me.
Right.
So those 1 or 2 weeks, your goal is to still engage those muscles, make sure you're not losing anything, make sure you're maintaining and still growing
Okay.
from your diet and your training. So I would say those 8 weeks and then take a 1 to 2 week deload. That would be the short answer.
Got
And
you.
then for those 2 weeks also, it would be amazing. That's an amazing time to take that as a learning experience. Like, not only are you taking 2 days to just take it easy, you can start incorporating movements you never have before.
Right.
You could do cross cable flies for your chest, your second chest workout, just to mess around and see how it feels
Mm-hmm.
for those 2 weeks, or tricep kickbacks. I mean, those aren't like crazy common. Maybe a different squat variation because you're doing
Right.
50, 60%. You're handling safe weight loads. So you're
Uh-huh.
able to experiment with how these things are feeling. So I feel like that needs to be a more common thing. And I feel like that would be the best way to go about it.
for sure. So I have a oh, you good.
Yeah, I
So
got
I had a
it.
question. When are we gonna see? Are you gonna? So you plan on competing in bodybuilding? Is that what you were saying?
Eventually, yeah.
So what?
Sometime this year.
Okay. So what? So a question I have. So you said you're a powerlifter. If bodybuilding goes good, your first show goes pretty good. Um, let's just say you win. Would you keep progressing in bodybuilding and competition wise, or what are your goals on that one?
That's a tough one for me. I've actually thought about this a few times before. So in bodybuilding, um, I am passionate about bodybuilding. It's weird because I'm passionate specifically about building my dream physique for myself,
Right.
not necessarily in the world of bodybuilding. I
Hmm.
just think that it kind of um, crosses over into that realm.
Okay.
So I feel like along the lines of building my body how I want it to look, I can compete and do well.
Hmm.
I'm not building my body specifically for a stage look, like I
Right.
said, but if I did well, I would keep competing and I would stick with it.
Okay.
Uh, I'm a little more passionate for powerlifting, considering that lifting heavy weights fun. I like the community, and excuse me, I like the community, and I feel like it's just not as taxing on my body. Bodybuilding, the training isn't taxing, but when you're prepping for that show, really taxing on your body. And I'm not saying I wouldn't do it because it's difficult. I know I could go through a prep 100% without
Right.
fail,
Hmm.
but it's just doing that process over and over and over again. It kind of wreaks havoc on your body a little bit. Um,
Really?
it's not the healthiest thing, but it's a passion, and that's why people do it. You're not
Right.
doing it because it's the healthiest thing. You're doing it because you love it. So uh, it's difficult for me to get super, super into bodybuilding due to that. But if I
Okay.
did well, I would keep doing it along the lines of just bodybuilding and competing.
Right.
Um, and that would obviously be locally for now. My first competition is going to be sometime this year for bodybuilding, and that's going to be towards the end of 2021
Got
because
you.
powerlifting is what I'm focusing on currently. Uh, Trying to do that along with building my ideal body and what I want to look like. So,
Okay.
but powerlifting will be around next month or April.
Okay. So, um, another question I have personally is, so what Ronnie Coleman did, is in his during competition he trained heavy, like super heavy still, but once it came to off season to get big, he would do a lot of powerlifting like movements. Do you think it'd be reasonable if a bodybuilder in his off season were to incorporate more powerlifting training to bulk up, or would that be bad?
Um, I'm actually really, really passionate about the opinion of it being beneficial.
Okay.
Uh, I think you need a little bit of both worlds to become the best in one.
Right.
So if you're trying to be the best bodybuilder, there are going to be times where you need to incorporate heavy lifting and heavy compound movements,
Right.
bench press, squat, deadlift, overhead press. Same thing with powerlifting. You need to become bigger to
Hmm.
increase your strength capacity, your maximum strength capacity,
Right.
and your performance. So bigger muscles can become stronger muscles. Not size. I'm not saying size is everything, but I'm saying if you are this strong and you become bigger, it's only going to be more beneficial. The only reason why powerlifters don't focus on size is because of the weight class idea.
Right.
Ideally, they want to stay in the lowest weight class while lifting the most amount of weight. So they stay in a weight class where they have the most potential. Like me, I would stay in the 93 kilogram weight class because I had the most potential there. At
Okay.
least now, at least
Right.
now from where I'm at. Um, and with bodybuilding, it's kind of the same thing in reverse, just not as specific. You're just
Right.
trying to bring your body to look a certain way, whether it's making your muscles more dense or literally just getting bigger and
Right.
thicker and wider. So with bodybuilding, I think those movements benefit muscle growth by a large, large, large margin. And the
Right.
reason for that is because your body is going to adapt to those high reps. And eventually, you're going to need to start working your slow twitch muscle fibers along with your fast twitch muscle fibers.
Right.
And one of the best ways to work those torquey, slow twitch muscle fibers is by doing those heavy ass movements like squat, bench, and deadlift. It's very, very important for not only your physique and your aesthetics,
Mhm.
but your strength and the way your body looks. So
Right.
I think those are very, very important, and I stick by that. And that's also part of the reason why I do both too.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I'm right now since I learned how to bulk properly.
I'm on 10% now.
Do you need to go grab a charger?
Uh, I think 10% will give us at least like 15 minutes. How
Okay.
long are you? How long are you trying to do that?
We can start wrapping it up if you need to.
Yeah, that's fine. We
Okay,
can do that.
I don't with these podcasts. My whole thing is I don't want to have a time restriction. If it goes short, it goes short. If it goes long, it goes long. I kind of just want to make sure we we have enough. We're not limited. You know.
To cover a decent amount. Yeah, I think we covered a lot. So,
Yeah, we did.
but if
So
you have a couple more, we can go over a couple more.
yeah. So one thing I really wanted to bring up, Flex Fitness today on their story posted. This was hilarious. Um, somebody bent like like those cheap thin barbells that are silver. Someone bent it and didn't own up to it, and they found the person on the security camera and they asked them to come. Another problem is that nobody, like gym etiquette wise, nobody is re-racking their weights. What's your opinion on that? Like coming from
Oh man, if I owned a gym, if I owned a gym, I would literally charge people for not re-racking the weights.
yeah,
I would literally post signs. I would post signs. I would say like weight re-rack fee or something, and just have posters like, if you do not re-rack your weights by signing your membership agreement, you are agreeing to pay. I would say $10 for not re-racking your weights.
right.
Because what the fuck?
Definitely.
When was it ever so difficult? Like, man, the only time I've done it was like using a machine, like a plate loaded machine, because I don't do that often, and I
Right.
don't think to take the weights off sometimes. I'd be fine with paying 5, 10 bucks for not doing that once every year. Like,
Yeah, I get that.
I've only done it like twice in my whole career of lifting,
Right.
and I guess if someone has like a mental illness, cut them some slack. Maybe don't
Definitely.
apply that pressure to them.
Right.
But I mean, people do it purposely. They leave 10 plates on that leg press.
It's you know,
So
yeah. I've seen some ridiculous stuff too. Me personally, I've always put weight back in. I've always been a numbers person where if I'm at the gym and the dumbbells are like a 30 is over with the tens, I'm like I get irritated and I'll actually fix it. But I
yeah, I
don't
do the same.
I don't think it comes on the laziness. It's not that hard to take your weight off of the machine and put it right next to it. You know,
Yep, it's really
it's
not, man. It's
takes
really not. It takes 3 seconds. And like
yeah,
the barbell issue, I actually don't think that's on the lifter unless
no.
they did it purposefully somehow.
Well,
Uh, but if it
yeah,
was just them lifting, that's on the gym. That's the gym's equipment, and I would consider the gym's equipment faulty at that point.
right.
Wasn't it? It wasn't actually endangers the lifter too. He could have gotten hurt. So I think that's on the gym,
Yeah,
and they need to replace that equipment, not him.
well,
And
no,
I
they're
don't think
yeah,
the
they were
lifter shouldn't
just
have to like just own up to it. I feel like they should have communicated it, but it's still not their fault.
yeah. Like I said, I don't really. It's very limited. We don't know like what both sides really were, but they said that they got footage on security camera that it just got bent, and who knows? I mean, at least I think at least having the courtesy to let somebody know, instead of just leaving it,
Yeah, very
maybe.
important. I mean, rather
But
than just leaving it there.
I think it'd be more big of a deal if it was like a bigger piece of equipment that's more expensive, because that
Well, I mean, barbells can be really expensive.
oh definitely.
Like a
Yeah,
nice
that's true.
barbell is like 300 bucks.
Yeah, no,
I remember I owned a Ohio Rogue deadlift bar,
oh, okay.
a Rogue Ohio deadlift bar, and it was 310 bucks, and that was with like a Christmas deal.
Yeah, see, it's an expensive game to get into. And um so another topic I kind of want to bring is I want to own a gym one day. That's like a big goal of mine. And I really want to business wise do a lot with it with my own bodybuilding career. And Fuad, what he's doing right now is every now and then when he finds equipment, he's just stockpiling. Like he'll buy one, keep it in his garage throughout the
Smart.
years. That's what I want to start doing now. I at least want to be able to get a small warehouse, not a CrossFit gym, but like a warehouse and create a bodybuilding gym and
That's all
start.
you need, really.
Yeah.
Just some space.
My plan with that, because I like to brainstorm a lot. I want to take that gym and turn it into like a bodybuilding gym and promote myself and the close friends that I make along this journey,
Hmm.
and make money off of it. One of my inspirations is Regan Grimes, who he lived in his gym when he first started, and now they moved into there's like he has like a couple hundred members now, and I think in the 500s, if not 500, but somewhere big. And he started from nothing, so that's something I definitely want to do in my lifetime.
That's very inspiring. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very, very possible, dude. Like,
Right.
I would say it's like 100% guarantee if you're super passionate about doing it and you're super, super focused on doing that kind of thing. All
Right.
you need is a plan, and execute it. I mean, and if it works, it works. And if you have a community that's backing it and behind what you're doing, and that's going to support you, chances are
Right.
you're going to succeed.
Exactly. One guy I want to get on here is Alex Whitaker or whatever. Is that his last name?
Yeah.
So from West Coast, I really want to get him on the podcast and maybe later down the road, but ask him and like get to
I
know
don't
like
see how he would be. I don't see how he have an issue with doing that. He's a chill
yeah.
dude.
I I
But
I,
yeah,
I
he'll be able to give you a lot of advice on running a gym, obviously.
right, because like with this podcast and stuff, I want to the whole goal is to inspire other people, but also for me to learn new information like this during this podcast. I've learned so much already, like that's the
Oh
cool part
yeah,
about it.
it's definitely cool to pick someone else's brain that's super serious about it, because bottom line is like you're gonna learn a thing or two,
Right.
no matter if they have more experience or not.
For
Um,
sure.
because everyone goes through like a different form of trial and error.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thank you for coming on. This is episode 2. Appreciate your time. Is there
of course,
anything you
man.
is there anything you want to say? Shout out. You can shout out your stuff.
Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my mom, Heidi.
Right.
uh,
Right.
for getting me my steaks.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
my huge boxes of steaks, and yeah,
Do
love
you
her.
want do you want to plug in your social medias?
Of course. Social media is Seth Michaels underscore. That's SETHMICHAELS
Mhm.
underscore. And then that's really the only thing I'm on.
Okay.
YouTube will come later.
Right, for sure. I'll put your Instagram in the link below. But yeah, again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate your time.
You bet. See you, Zach.
See you, man.